When I was younger, in my teenage years, I used to see these types of videos all the time, and they're actually becoming more and more prevalent as time goes on. But I had the idea to do this for one of the very first games I've ever played on a computer. And I really began to wrestle with myself over the entire concept to begin with. It's no secret that video games are becoming regarded as art more and more in recent years. And it's not really a surprise either, especially with the caliber some of them have. We've got to normalize it, as some of you no doubt out there would say. Same thing as like a movie or a book. And sometimes not even that. Yeah, man, Schedule 1 got me out of my depression. You could honestly make the case that it has, because if some people have friends that they play with, or they make friends and then they begin to play it, everything's not as it seems, okay? It might be that way on paper, but once you actually listen to them and hear them, it's a different story. But let me give you a real perspective here. As my younger self would say, why the fuck would I care what some asshole has to say about some game? How does a game save somebody? How does a game take somebody out of something? Okay? It can't. It's a fucking game. You know what I mean? But this title, this description, the thumbnail even, it all seemed like a grift. And maybe it still is. But I've come to understand it more as I've grown up, because people are still relating their experiences. They're still saying, "Oh, well, I was going through this at the time, so I could experience this story, and it helped me relate to it a whole lot more because I was actually going through." Like, there's actually real world examples of this shit happening. You know what I mean? Now, to tell you the truth here, I was gonna be a total dick and come up with like some overarching parody of another video, but I'm not gonna do that. I found it funny for a moment, but I feel like I would feel too heartless if I actually went through with it. To the point where I'm not even going to provide any examples, I'm just going to let you imagine it. To give you the real crux of the matter, S.T.A.L.K.E.R really did save me. I don't think I've really acknowledged it until now. My family's always been on the poorer side, scrounging for things, pinching pennies, that sort of thing. I was in middle school and I'd just gotten an Xbox One. Actually, as I get older now, those years kind of blend together. At some point, either before or after getting an Xbox One, I got a hand-me-down laptop. But it wasn't a normal laptop. It was a Windows 8, locked like it was a Windows 8 education or some shit, because it was a school computer. So it was like halfway bricked when I was checking it out to begin with. So it was a real challenge for me at the time. Because there's actually a good bit of stuff you can't do. Because you can't be an administrator. You don't have certain privileges. You can't do this, you can't do that. But half the time, whenever it said I couldn't do something, I could sometimes still go through with it or find an alternate way of still accomplishing that goal. So it wasn't as much of a hindrance as I initially thought. It was still kind of a pain in the ass though. Especially whenever I wanted to install mods or have a program. Yeah, it sucked, because I wasn't using it for its intended purpose, but it was the only thing I had. And considering the fact that it was in 2013 and 2014, it still ran pretty good. I was out in a rural area. There is a open Wi-Fi network near my window, where I'd always get 1 to 2 bars, and not always. Now, if that Wi-Fi network wasn't open, I wouldn't have discovered any of this. I wouldn't have had anything at all. No data, no nothing, okay, because this is 2014. That spotty neighbor's Wi-Fi connection was my only connection for a few years. It was the only way to communicate with my friends. Because we were still like transitioning between flip phones and actual fucking phones in that time. And parents were still debating the whole idea of, oh, should we really have to give our kids phones and data plans and shit? Like, come on, man. I mean, smartphones were still becoming a thing. Clash of Clans was the fucking rage. You know what I mean? That's the kind of shit we were doing. Fucking Angry Birds, Flappy Bird. But there was like this total period of isolation where I didn't have anyone to talk to outside of my normal friends, because I had console friends and like I had 2 separate friend groups at once. I'm not sure how it came about. I was playing some other game. I think it was Minecraft or Castle Miner. And I met a couple other people that I hung out with, but at this point, for a few months at a time, I wasn't talking to anybody. I don't remember how it came about. There might have been a punishment, a grounding, I'm not sure. Or the Wi-Fi network went away for a time. I really don't remember. I just remember the isolation and being cut off. So naturally, whenever you first get into gaming, you're going to buy the most mainstream games, right? You're going to play Call of Duty, you're going to play FIFA, you're going to play fucking a sports game, something mainstream, right? You're going to pick up whatever's big at the time, whatever has the biggest marketing, because that's what people do. They don't know what anybody wants. They're not going to buy them some shitty indie game that they might not even like. They're going to buy something mainstream that appeals to everybody. And so naturally, the earlier Call of Duties were my first Call of Duties. Not 1 or 3, but 4. 4 was actually my first. I would replay the levels over and over, especially with the cheat mode, which was really cool. Playing through all the levels with the different cheats on, sometimes combining them. But all gillied up, I really loved it for some reason. I'm not sure why, I guess because I'd never really been exposed to the idea of a ghost town before. I've never really read about them or knew much anything really, so I was like, okay, what really is Pripyat, you know? So I kept playing it, just like all the other levels. And then later on, I looked up the soundtrack to the game, because even now, soundtracks always speak to me from a game. If somebody puts a lot of time into a game, the art design, the music, the visuals, then I will appreciate those aspects, of course, you know, even the voice acting, right? But I was searching for the soundtrack of Call of Duty 4, and they named it a specific name for a tribute to a series that I'd never heard of. They called it Shadow of Chernobyl. I was going through the list, and I searched up this one in particular, and that's how I found Shadow of Chernobyl, the game. And so I began to do a little bit of research after that into the series. I didn't have much interest in it, but then I found a smaller YouTuber playing through the Misery mod on Call of Pripyat because it was the most recent entry. And I had no idea about any of them, so I said, okay, I'll check out the most recent one. Albeit with mods, I think Misery was the most recent one, or it was the one that popped up. But this was back when Misery was still pretty big anyway. So I started watching it, and I was like, wow, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I like the feel, the oppressive atmosphere, the gunplay, the shooting, the enemies, the concept, because it's still set in that time, that era. It still has the same setting, mostly. So I made a Steam account. This was actually the entire reason I made a Steam account. And I bought the games. I bought Clear Sky, or no, I didn't buy Clear Sky. I bought Call of Pripyat and Shadow of Chernobyl for $40, 20 each. Getting $40 as a kid, a poor kid, was fucking hard to do. I think it was for a birthday present or some shit. It wasn't just handed out, okay? This was a fucking occasion for me, okay? This was a real gamble. I didn't even know if I'd like these games, man. But I fucking went ahead and I did it. And I actually played Call of Pripyat first. I didn't finish it. I got a couple hours into it. And then I was like, no, hold on. I should play these how they came out. People were saying that Shadow of Chernobyl was a little bit better than Call of Pripyat. So I'll go with SOC first. And I'm glad I did because of the story. You know, naturally, Shadow of Chernobyl was the more, just the more polished and more put together, even though it was in development hell for however long. And this naturally came into, it spurred my fascination for the series over the years, eventually culminating in me looking into the series, the developers, the studio, the everything, really. Not that I knew any of it would happen at the time. And it certainly didn't for a few years. And I noticed, sort of like as a side effect, that the few stalker channels out there, they don't really, I don't know. They seem contained. They don't cover absolutely everything. And I'm not trying to say that's what I'm doing, but I at least try to do a little bit more than what they're doing. If I see a post about some lore, maybe I'll do some lore. If I see a post about a staff member that story seemed interesting, then I'll make a video about it. It's not about one game or a specific part of it or just about the lore or just about the gameplay. It is about the entire fucking thing. If I feel like I played through a mod and I fucking loved the atmosphere, the levels, the graphics, the sound, I'll throw out an ambient video of it because I loved how it sounded, how it played, how it felt. So I'll give everybody a little taste of that. I've got tons of ambient videos and people seem to enjoy them. I don't do them that often though. Or I could make a video talking about some controversy within the Stalker, the community. I mean, I also do general gaming all around, but mostly I do come back to certain games, certain series. There's a reason the Stalker playlist in my channel has over 100 videos. It's the biggest playlist. There's no debate, really. Okay, it's been years and years, decade in the making, for a reason. I've got passion for the series, whether vanilla or modded, although it depends on what mod you really want to talk to me about, because I will fight for or against on some of them, for sure. But this is an all-encroaching, all-consuming passion. I try to give my honest thoughts and opinions on different matters as they affect the community, because that is definitely a part that nobody really falls into. Of course, there's been a few videos about it, but not really anything huge or extensive. I mean, I watched the Shadow of the Zone film, and I went against a good bit of popular opinion at the time. It was actually kind of divided, really. But at the time, there was a good bit of positive opinion about it. I made a video about A-Life, about to get 10,000 views here in a few weeks, because I do understand the series. I might not understand Stalker 2 as well. You know, we're still learning about it. It's still a refining process. But I had lots of time to study, learn, reflect, and play the games. And then play them again with mods. Stalker is actually the main reason I started learning another language. The language it was marketed in at the time before 2014, Russian. So I said, okay, this is my favorite video game series, and it actually got me interested in that language. What are they saying to me? What are these stalkers saying to me as I play the game? What are the common phrases they're saying? What does cheeky breaky mean? That type of shit, man. I, of course, now know that it is a Ukrainian studio, based out of Ukraine, you know. Although I think they're doing things out of Cyprus now. But the point is, it got me fascinated with other cultures from the get-go. It's a powerful series. In a time when I was alone and neglected, not in the traditional sense, just not any friends, not anybody to talk to, a lonely summer, really. I had found solace in some bizarre series, some post-apocalyptic games, something where if somebody asked me about it, I couldn't describe it because I'd never found or seen or played anything like it before. I showed it to some of my friends when I got back to school, but kind of confused them, and it led to a few awkward conversations. Just some of the things a typical kid would do whenever they're overly enthusiastic about something. I'm sure you've all done something like that in your lives. It's all part of growing up and being an adult, having those sorts of fucking miserable experiences that you all have to be a well-rounded person. Now, is it a overly dramatic, like, oh, it saved me from suicide, or like I was literally about to do the deed and then I found this game? No, man, no, it's not. It is a real story. It's not anything huge. It is to me, actually. But to anybody else, it's probably not. It might just be a normal experience. Oh, you could have, like, I don't know, went outside or some shit. I did go outside, man. I did plenty of shit. Neither of my parents really, it just wasn't a great situation, okay? I didn't really want to deal with them any more than I had to, living with them. I kind of wanted to keep to myself. I wanted to talk to my friends, stay away from my family, but I couldn't. Thankfully, I was able to game, right? And I've since moved away into a better situation, quite some years ago, which in itself was a little incident. But maybe Stalker was the little stepping stone out of it in the first place. I don't know what it is about that depressing, like, Eastern European funk. Maybe it really mirrored my own life to a certain extent. Maybe that was one of the reasons I could get into it so much, was because I had nothing else to get into at the time. It just kind of sucked me in with no abandon, and it didn't fucking let go, man. Even still to this day, I'm still finding ideas to talk about, things to play, people to talk to about topics. Like, it's part of my life, man. I don't know if that's sad to say or fucking pathetic to even think in the first place, but I'm saying it and I'm thinking it. Just as you can find goofy and totally just stupid mods for no reason, I can name a few right now, right off the bat. Fucking Stalker Soup, ABC Inferno. There's been some debate on Lurk, but really I'm just giving you examples. And then you have some mods people say you should absolutely positively play, like Wind of Time, Spatial Anomaly, Vector of Alienation. And you don't need incredible voice acting, incredible animations, because I've played these games a million times. Maybe it's just me, okay? But playing these games and just reading text and text and text and interacting with the same models, sometimes not the same models, going through the same maps over and over, the same loading screens, it doesn't matter to me, okay? The format, how it's basically a repeat process, it doesn't matter. If it's a good story, a good game, I don't care how it's presented to me, as long as it is actually presentable. It's not yet, okay? There's passion, there's presence, there's not an absence of just some sort of spirit involved. Then people will probably enjoy it. And it really does lend credence to the whole video games as art theory, especially whenever you consider everything involved. It's a multinational, international effort from a lot of different places. There's an Eastern and Western community for them. I mean, they're obviously doing something right? Even if there is a bit of a language barrier, and maybe even a bit of a cultural one, actually, with some of the memes. Some Western memes might not be understood, and some Eastern ones might not be understood. You know what I mean? You see fucking Cheburashka running around, and you show it to somebody that just played fucking Gamma, they might be like, dude, what are you showing me, right? And there might even be a bit of disconnect in the modding community. If you want to talk to someone who plays fucking IWP, Gamma, Anomaly. But the Eastern side has their own things too, because they have Anomaly custom. But I feel like the Western side in particular just has a more militaristic, just sort of like merc mindset, especially when it comes to mods. They've got that whole Tarkov type beat, and I don't know how to feel about it, man. Gold Sphere, Spatial Anomaly, Wind of Time, that's my type of shit, man, not this merc fucking shit, man. I'm not here to play as a fucking operator. I'm not here to extract out of an area and loot it, okay? I'm here to play a fucking game. Some of us may have different concepts and ideas of what a game is, but I can gladly sit here and tell you that those are two very different things. But that's not what this video is about. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who might be able to even relate to me and say, oh, well, I actually had this same, like, you know, it was 2009, I just went through a bad divorce, or my girlfriend left me or some shit, you know, like, and they found this game. Like, it happens all the time to different people who find different franchise. Like, it's life. In all its ups and downs and everything, it is life. And that's the best thing I can say about it. But nobody's said this about Stalker so far. And I don't know, maybe it's a little puzzling to me because it's such a big series, at least with Stalker 2. Maybe it was a bit more of a cult classic before. I think that's what I'll go with, but I don't know, I feel like I should have expected somebody to do it before, but when you think about it, there's not even that much coverage of it to begin with. You have some meme channels, you have some lore channels, and you have some update channels, okay? I'm not trying to roll everything into one here, but I do try to give an overall view here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Overall, the main message is to give the more underrepresented things a representation, right? I just did a video on Lukash, and it kind of bombed. It didn't hit the algorithm or anything, despite the similar thumbnails, the format, the delivery even, but people are still searching for it. In fact, somebody left a comment on it, and they said, "Oh well, thank you. I'm so surprised you did this. That was really cool." And it touched me, man. That sort of shit, man. I don't care if it gets a million views, but because it touched someone, man. Like it touched someone the way the series touched me, right? To be found, to be talked about, to be heard, I guess. I don't want to sound preachy, but that's the best way I can put it. Somehow, some way, maybe it was one of my subscribers. I was thinking about this when I got that comment. I was like, how the fuck did someone find this? Because it didn't have any views, so maybe one of my subscribers was like, hey, you know what? I'll connect the dots and send this link along because that's how they found it, right? It was through a link. But somewhere along the way, somebody saw it and they were like, hey, I'll pass it on to this guy. And I got an earnest thank you. Some days it might be about the popular things like, for example, A-Life, okay? Game mechanics, certain mods, certain topics that might be more controversial. Things that people are talking about most of all is what we want to hit, right? Sometimes it doesn't hit. But in order to get seen, we need to be seen in the first place. There need to be titles that are eye-catching, thumbnails that stand out. And behind all of it needs to be passion and commitment and an energy. I would have to say this is just another form of doing it. If you've been up to date with the soccer subreddit, there's actually a guy, Regash, I think his name is, but he used to lore post a lot. I don't know if he does anymore recently, but I used to cover him a few times because even then there's a few things I found out that I really had no idea about. Real life inspiration or a secret hidden fact or something. Really a knowledgeable guy. But you can tell immediately, you can clock immediately that guy, he's been in it for years, man. It's a series he loves. I'm assuming it's a he. Maybe I shouldn't be. But it's a series they love. And it comes across in each and every comment. So this is just another form for me to do that. And if I can make money, if I'm allowed, if I'm so privileged to make a couple cents off of a video about a certain topic or a mod or a gameplay or an ambient video, that's nice. If I'm able to put some people to sleep with some ambience videos or bring up some topics somebody might not know about in the soccer community, fuck it, man, I'll do it. I don't know, because I think as it became less about me, it became more about others. I get to showcase and share different things that I find interesting. Some people might not find them interesting, I do. And if I decide to share it, so be it. Obviously, though, some of it has definitely worked, some of it hasn't, but that's just how it goes. If you thought I would mention Stalker 2 as being integral to this, I'm not really speaking from that point of view. The closest thing I would have to say would be that it's more from a 2010s mindset. Is this game even going to... It's not going to come out. And then wait until a few more mods come out. Lost Alpha, Misery, Call of Chernobyl, so many mods. And then 2018 rolls around, which was amazing. I didn't think it was actually 2018 because that was so many years ago that it was announced for 2021. So we were like, okay, 3 years, that's amazing, isn't it? It might not even come out. Well, another ray of hope situation, really. And then 2021 became 2024. And then we were really surprised. We were like, wow, is this actually even going to come out? And then I think they were in development hell until Microsoft picked them up. And I think that's what forced them to come out and release it in the state that it is today. But they're slowly and surely recovering. It's definitely going to take time. But the point is, at that time, we had no idea what was happening. We didn't know what the fuck was happening. We knew Stalker 2 was canceled. Stalker 2 was already canceled by the time I even got into the series to begin with. Just shy of a year or two. By the time I got to sink my teeth into it. However, by that time, that meant that a lot of bugs were polished. It'd been around for a little bit. There wasn't much of a media craze. It was still a cult classic. There wasn't much going on. But when there was something going on, you fucking knew about it because there was nothing else going on. You would hear about new mods, a new update, new add-ons. I would remember scouring the fucking ModDB page for Call of Chernobyl 1.4 add-ons back whenever Sandbox was still a huge thing. I know Anomaly has become the new Call of Chernobyl, and I feel sad for Alundio or Revolucus or whatever his fucking name is, but I guess that ship has sailed. However, I did ask him about 1.6, and I think that might have been what actually got him to release 1.6. I asked him in the Discord, we were talking about Legends of the Zone and how badly the enhanced editions released, because that's his opinion that it's a little bit of a it was a little bit of a blunder. And I said, hey, that's you. I said, 1.6 when? As a joke. And he said, I don't know. And I thought that was the end of it, but as it turns out, it was actually on his hard drive, and he fucking released it, man. So in my own little way, maybe I influenced his decision to release it, because he was like, damn, maybe that was on my hard drive somewhere. I totally forgot about it. I'll release it. That guy asked me about it. Hey, maybe I've got an inflated ego and he just fucking did it anyway. Maybe I just reminded him of it, okay? I don't know. Wishful thinking. But it was really cool to even talk to the motherfucker. I mean, not to call him a niche micro celebrity, but he kind of is, actually. And I haven't really gotten to talk to anyone else like that. He had that little thing with Dr. X who died. He was releasing a lot of cool add-ons. Such a shame. But I'm not the only one out there who has a love and passion for this series. People are still making mods for the older games. There's still a community for the older games. And there's a community for the newer one, people who've never seen the series before. Stalker 2 has got them into it. Carrying on the torch. And I think at the end of the day, us older heads don't really like the newer formats. People in the fucking subreddit will just say, oh, I saw gameplay of Gamma and I want to install it. Sometimes they will say to play the originals first, which is my personal opinion, to play the originals first, but some people don't want to do that. They just want to play Anomaly and Gamma. I'm not using them as a scapegoat, but I'm just like, it's the newest thing. It's the most popular thing. Of course, they are going to want to play it, not some older piece of shit game, because that's what they're going to think in their eyes. Gamma is the most popular Stalker Discord. It is one of the most popular Discords with its member count. It has 500,000 members, whereas the official Stalker Discord has only like 70,000. So you can obviously see the disconnect. And I don't think it's healthy for the series as a whole, but I don't want to talk about it too much longer. It's just that there's a newer generation, a newer mindset, newer mods, a newer experience even. But that's just how it is with any game. We can't live in the past forever. As much as I might hate to say it. It was a very important part of my foundation, part of my adolescence, becoming an adult. I don't care if it's really cringe to say that a game is part of my foundation, because I've kind of moved past it. If you enjoy games, and you honestly accept them as a part of who you are, what you do, what you like, then you will understand. If you don't, you might think I'm a fucking nerd, a loser. I don't do anything, I have no other hobbies. I do have other hobbies, actually. Not that you really give a fuck, right? But you wouldn't have made it this far if you didn't. So no, man, it's not a glamorous story, it's not nothing that's headline-worthy, but it is special to me. Maybe if I had absolutely nothing to do, it could have been a worse situation because of the household, the environment, which I eventually had to forcefully get out of. It was a privilege to play the game, to play any game at all, to be able to do such a thing, be a kid. Yes, I'm not saying that it isn't. But nobody can understand it as I have. There's only so many things I can tell you. You're not ever going to get the full story. But it's not so obviously as dark as it's made out to be, okay? I got to play a few games, I got to experience a new mindset, find some new cultures, another part of the world to be fascinated with, another part of history to get me into history as a kid, to understand different things. Maybe if I never had a... Maybe my Xbox could have been just smashed, or I never got a hand-me-down laptop. I could have just been staring at the wall for 3 months straight, you know what I mean? Which obviously would have been a much worse situation to be in. But I am thankful to have the things I had, even in that type of situation. So to bring it really full circle, I don't think these types of videos are a hindrance. I don't think they're anything bad. I do think they are a part of a trend. However, that's not inherently a bad thing, because each and every video is its own case. It's on a case-by-case basis, you know what I mean? So it's hard to say without watching each and every one what they're about, what they're like, what that person is like, what their experience is. Even if they ever had an experience to begin with, they might just be making shit up, okay? It's the internet, you know? What I'm saying to you could have been a bold-faced fucking lie for 40 minutes. I can tell you it's not, but will you believe me? Deep down, though, people do want to believe these things. They do want to click on the videos, they do want to watch them, they do want to listen to them. They want to believe in the good of other people. So I dislike the trend hopping, dislike the more mainstream appeal here, but I do like the novelty idea. It's not a black and white situation to approach. Because there's things I can dislike and like about it. I can say for sure I dislike the bandwagoning, the hopping on a trend, the saying, oh, well, I felt a little sad, and then this game I found cheered me up. Like, you can easily downplay or make something look a lot different than it actually is, and I don't want to do that. I'll probably receive some comments that say something to that effect, but that's okay, because that's just, that is how it is, and I can't change it. Whether or not you give a fuck, whether or not you believe, whether or not you care enough to make a comment, whether or not you care enough to relate, those are all deeply different things. A different level of investment, a different viewer. And hey, you know what? Maybe it depends on my presentation. Maybe I presented it the wrong way. Maybe it's me, you know? I don't know. But obviously, I'm doing something right, because I'm getting close to 2,000 subs, so I think I've done something right. I've made it to be monetized. I've made it to be able to make some sort of money off of this somehow, some way. Not a lot of money, not anything huge, but I'm able to do something that I love, and sometimes it is a chore, but compared to some people with actual jobs that work like 16, 20-hour shifts at a fucking factory or something that get paid below minimum wage, okay? It is a blessing, for sure. Do I have to toe the line sometimes? Yes, of course. Am I a little unorthodox sometimes in how I do certain things, certain videos, certain topics? Yes, of course. It's boring to see the same thing all the time. But I hope I've come across in a way that is mostly satisfying. I don't want to just, have done this for nothing. And I mean, I really haven't, but sometimes it does feel that way. Whether I can help it or not. Some people talk about imposter syndrome. Maybe I've got it a little bit. I don't really try to think about it. It's just that lately I've been thinking about myself a lot. I've had a lot of time to reflect, think about my environment now versus when I was growing up. A lot of things to talk about and consider. A lot of different facets, and to just think of myself as a person entirely. How I've changed. And I wanted to do this to really mark that reflection, that change. I don't know if I've done it in a good way, but I have definitely done it, I guess, because it certainly felt long enough recording this. But I won't keep you much longer. Hopefully, Hopefully I've gotten through to someone, somebody can relate to this, somebody can say, oh, that's fucking cool, man, keep chugging along or something. I don't know, man. It'd be nice if somebody would say something at all to tell you the absolute truth. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.